It rises every morning, and so do we. With fresh perspectives and innovative ideas, we grow trust for our clients in food and agriculture, in their products, processes, people, and brands. It's all we do, and we do it like no one else can. It's a new day in food and agriculture, with new challenges and bright possibilities. When you need someone you can count on, look east.
Thanks for joining us here from Cleveland, Ohio with the Republican National Convention. I'm Spencer Chase for Agri-Pulse Communications, here with Aubrey Bettencourt, a delegate from the California GOP delegation. And Aubrey, for you in particular, what is it about this Republican National Convention that really motivates you to want to serve as a delegate for your state?
This is such a critical time of change in our country, and especially in this party, where we're seeing new life, new people who have never been involved in politics, let alone Republican politics, all of a sudden coming to the table to present a new energy and some new ideas. And so I'm here, and I find this incredibly important to be here during this time of great change, during this time of great expansion, to try to bring not only our party but our country into the 21st century with a new vivacity and some new ideas and some new groups of people and voices at the table.
Now, professionally speaking, you serve as the executive director of the California Water Alliance, and you said before we started the interview, you're here as a citizen, not as an executive director. But from the perspective of that executive director, what does this election mean for the arguments surrounding California water rights?
This election is absolutely critical. In comparing both of the candidates, which I should be clear, the Water Alliance has not endorsed in a presidential election, nor do we plan to in this election at this time. But in comparing both candidates on this issue, there's only been one who's actually come and seriously studied the issue, seriously spoken with the leaders involved in the policy, spoken with the growers on the ground who are dealing with the everyday effects of the absolute mismanagement of our water supply in California, and that was Donald Trump. Ms. Clinton has spoken to the water issue, but in passing, and basically has echoed that she would follow existing policies. And quite frankly, in California, and something that we've worked very hard for with the California Water Alliance, existing policies, the status quo of managing water in California is not working and is not acceptable in the future. So this election is incredibly critical for how we decide which leaders are going to be in place and which mindset is going to be in place in the management of the most critical resource in California, which has a direct effect on our daily lives, our public health, and our food supply as a state and as a nation. And that management mentality has to change to one of environmental accountability and water supply reliability and protection for all of our water users, agricultural, urban, and environmental.
Between now and Election Day, what do you hope to see from the two presidential candidates?
As a Californian, water is the top issue in our state. It's water, jobs, and the economy all tied together, and usually at the top of the polling data in the state. And so if they're coming out to California, we want to hear them speak to this issue. And it shouldn't be a passing comment. It should be, I would hope that the people that they're surrounding themselves with would impress upon them the importance of the issue. As we are in a fifth year of a drought, even though we have 100% of water in certain regions and only 5% in others, with a threat of that being taken away at any given minute by our federal government. So it needs to be, addressed not only just in a passing of, hey, we're going to get this solved. We need to hear a little substance too about some of the bigger issues, because it is tied to the regulatory system at the federal level that does have an impact on not just water and natural resources, but also other parts of business and the economy in our state. So would love to hear that out of them, and I'm looking for that from the California perspective.
So from a perspective of, you've been talking a lot about water, but from a broader agricultural, regulatory, things of that nature, how do you think this election shapes up for the American people and for that American undecided rural voter?
There's a lot of issues being talked about in this election that are critical to the agricultural community. There's talk about not only natural resources and environmental, but regulatory reform. That's a big talking point. In this election is also, as well as immigration, which is tied to labor, as well as trade. And this idea of American productiveness. You're hearing that in both camps. You're hearing that from the Trump campaign. You're also hearing that from the Clinton campaign. The idea of putting people back to work. You know what? As I'm a third-generation farmer in California. Isn't it just amazing that we still manufacture 100% American-made food, fiber, and fuel? And I want to hear those two candidates speak to how they're going to maximize that opportunity by providing us the resources, not only from a regulatory standpoint, but also from a labor standpoint, and also a fairness and an opportunity to compete, because we are the greatest agricultural industry in the world, and no disrespect to others, but we do better when we're allowed to flex that muscle as an agricultural community. And so having the resources to allow us to do that and allow us to pass that on to the next generation is what we're going to need to hear as an agricultural community.
Was Donald Trump your first choice?
I was very slow to this point. There's so much going on outside of just the candidates themselves in terms of the ideas that are being discussed and the mentality and the extremes as well as the middles. And so arriving at the decision to go with Donald Trump, took me a long time to get here, and I wanted to see kind of things shake out among the Republicans first. And so, maybe not my first choice, but that's not to say I had another choice. I just didn't have a choice. I wasn't really leaning one way or another. And as I have gotten to hear more, as I have been able to see him outside of the spotlight, as I'm looking at who he's surrounding himself with, that's really what I think is a sign of a good leader. A good leader invites people who complement them, not because they are the same, but because they make up that which they don't have. And I see Donald Trump surrounding himself with people who have skills and experience that he doesn't have. I see Hillary Clinton surrounding herself with people that are all of the same mindset and all of the same thinking process. And that is very scary to me, because the status quo does not work. And maintaining the status quo under a Clinton administration, which might very well happen, to me is just not going to be healthy for our agricultural community. It's not going to be healthy for our nation.
And it seems like a lot of the things, especially in regards to the Donald Trump agricultural policy, a lot of that people seem to think is going to have a lot to do with who he surrounds himself with, like you said. So as he potentially develops a cabinet, as he potentially develops people that could help shape the 2018 Farm Bill, who are the kind of folks that you are hoping he surrounds himself with?
Oh gosh, from that standpoint specifically, in terms of agricultural leaders, we're going to be, we're going to need to look for good, fresh leadership. I think Adam Putnam is a great choice, great agricultural leader out of Florida. Those that embrace not only the understanding of modern agriculture today, and understanding of needing to embrace technology, the ability to integrate with technology and apply that on the farm, because it is the number one industry applying technology daily. This idea of how we are the first environmentalists. I think we're going to need to be looking for leaders out of that realm as well. So maybe, Joni Ernst has a great background in agriculture. There's some great leaders in agriculture out of the House, on both sides of the aisle, actually. So, I think diversity of state, of nationwide representation would be great as well. It's a big state and there's big agriculture everywhere. I know I'm from California, but there's some wonderful agriculture throughout the rest of the nation too. And especially in dealing with Farm Bill, we want to see, I would really like to see a lot of diverse representation to really represent this amazing powerhouse community that only makes up 6% of the nation's population and yet makes up so much of our economy, so much of our daily lives.
Aubrey, thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you.
For Agri-Pulse Communications, I'm Spencer Chase.